Hiya, welcome to the Redmen TV. I am here with Adam Lallana as we look at Bobby Firmino and his career at Liverpool Football Club. So to start it off then, let's go back to the beginning, when was the first time you became aware of Roberto Firmino? Was it during his time at Hoffenheim, or was the first kind of glimpse of him when he actually signed for Liverpool?
Yeah, I think it was when he signed. I hadn't heard of Bobby or who he was playing for. So it was a surprise. I think he came in, I think it was the summer after I joined.
2015.
2015, yeah, when Brendan signed. And obviously Brendan, I think, was only in the job another few months. But what struck me straight away probably wasn't Bobby himself, was how Klopp was once he signed. He kind of like knew he had this like diamond that was just no one had really seen yet, and he just knew straight. I remember in one of his meetings he said, "We have this player like Bobby. You don't know how good he is yet, you know." And that was obviously gave everyone like a lot of confidence, and just one of few things that Jurgen done initially to kind of have a big impact, really.
Yeah, you talk about him there, being massive under the Jurgen Klopp era. What was your first impressions of him as a footballer then, seeing him in training straight away? He had the Brazilian flair, he's had some unbelievable moments. What was your first impressions of him as a footballer?
He had a Brazilian flair, but you knew straight away and he understood the game. Like I said, in we all had myself included, it was hard to settle at Liverpool for my first year, and I think Bobby had that for maybe the initial 3-4 months. But as soon as Jurgen came, I think it just made him feel more at home. He started playing him as this false nine straight away, whereas at the beginning he was playing maybe wide left a little bit, maybe a bit of number 10. So Jurgen seemed to know exactly what he had and how to utilise it and how to get the best out of him. And from the word go, he became, the centrepiece really to what Jurgen was trying to build.
Yeah, you mentioned there he maybe struggled for the first couple of months. What was the integration process like? At the time, he didn't speak English, obviously, and the Brendan Rodgers era was coming to an end. What was he like in the dressing room? Now you see him samba dancing every time he scores, always smiling. Was he a bit more timid and shy because he was coming into new surroundings, new club, and obviously a language where he didn't speak it? What was he like for the first couple of months?
He was shy. I'd still say Bobby's quite shy and timid now, even though he has the hair and the teeth and the samba and the tricks. But I think he's very, very quiet and reserved away from, or in the dressing room. He's not loud. The opposite to that. Same as Felipe. Felipe was very shy and reserved, and that pleasantly makes you warm to them because they're just good people. Good family person. And yeah, when he first came in, the club was in a transitional moment, and I could relate to that because I had a tough first year settling for loads of reasons, and it could only have been harder for Bobby with the language, with the different culture, different country. But you could see straight away he wasn't just a flair Brazilian. He had like some German traits in him, which were discipline, hard work. And he would run, and again, that's probably, with hindsight now, I understand why Jurgen was so excited to utilise him.
Yeah, you mentioned the word utilise there, and I think in the last question you also mentioned that maybe he was playing this right wing. Was there ever talk, because there was obviously speculation in the media, that basically he wasn't being utilised to the best of his ability until Jurgen Klopp came in? Did that talk ever make it into the dressing room then before Brendan Rodgers left?
No, not at all. I wouldn't even been aware of it at that time. I just thought, with all due respect, I'd never even seen Bobby play before, so I wasn't even sure if he was a 10 or if he was a winger. Similar to myself, I played a lot of football out wide, whereas I was probably played my best football more centrally, which happened in years to come. Sometimes it just takes time to adapt to a new team, and like I said before, Jurgen was huge in getting the best out of Bobby straight away. That false number 9 role that he implemented for so many years, he probably made it his own. Even speaking to our new manager now, he says that Firmino is one of his favourite players that that he'd like to coach, because he's got the ability to play that false nine, which is like a number 10, but then you can play a striker, and he's just got a special talent.
Yeah, he certainly does. He can do a lot for this team. And talking about that then, how integral was he to Klopp's system? It felt like Klopp was building a team based around Roberto Firmino. How important was it that, he was the centrepiece and he knitted everything together? And ultimately that this system then becomes this Liverpool team that go on to win absolutely everything.
Yeah, he basically built the team around him. For me, Bobby playing the false nine gave license for Mo and Sadio and Felipe to kind of express themselves, and Bobby was the link. Okay, of course he chipped in with goals and assists, but what he done a lot of the time goes under the radar. Defensively as counter pressing. He just understands the game, and I think so many players will kind of say he's their most important player, or just because not what everyone sees, but the stuff that goes under the radar that kind of complements everything else he does.
Yeah, 100%. And on that then, you mentioned how integral he's been to that Klopp system. Was there a game in that 15-16 season where obviously you've seen his ability on the training pitch, but was there a specific game that season? And I'm sorry I'm putting you under pressure to try and pick a game.
To be fair, I remember it. I remember after international break coming back, and we had City.
Yeah, that's the game I was thinking of.
And no one had really seen this was early in Jurgen's reign, so I think it might have been one of the first games Jurgen played him as a false nine. I think the front three that day was Felipe, Bobby and me up top, and the Brazilians put on a show first half, and I was kind of just there in the moment doing the running probably or something, but celebrating with them. But that was the first moment where it was like, wow, we went to City, we won 4-1. And in that first season we made strides forwards, but then I took steps back along the way, and it was it was part of the process, is what happens. But things just started clicking, and you could see Bobby started feeling at home. The confidence was there. He knew the manager backed him, trusted him, playing him in an area in the pitch where he felt free and comfortable, and it was a special game, that, and yeah, they both put on a show, Felipe and Bobby, in the first half.
It's a team game. You still had a part in that. You played. So obviously you've mentioned we as a team made strides forward, but also took some steps back. The end of that season ends in disappointment, losing the Europa League. But with that system, the way it was coming together, with Klopp as the manager, did it feel like, yeah, we'll be back, and we'll have a chance to win these trophies, these major honours once again?
I'm not sure we believed it in that moment, but like looking back now, we got to the final of the Europa League in his first season, which of course there were signs there. We were just following Jurgen, really. We were just like puppies towards him, just kind of doing whatever he told us to do. And we trusted that if we did that, then success would come. You knew how he kind of approached us, spoke to us in meetings, that, the Champions League was his, or European nights, he knew how to win, and he achieved that straight away in his first year. And obviously we then managed to qualify for the Champions League, and well, the rest was history really. But yeah, Bob, he definitely got the best out of Bobby.
Yeah, and after Bobby then, we obviously had the additions of Mane and Salah, which made up the iconic front three. And then we signed Virgil at the back, Alisson, Fabinho. It felt like then everything really started, to click. Liverpool became relentless winners. And I remember Peter Crouch saying the quote that if you watch the game, you don't see Firmino. But if you watch Firmino, you see the whole game. Does that ring true even to this day? Could Liverpool have become that team without without Firmino's unselfish nature?
I honestly don't think so. No. I think Bobby is so selfless, and the way his strengths complement the team in terms of he just plays the false nine as good as anyone else. It's so difficult to find a striker that plays the false nine, because you need certain attributes, and certain attributes aren't even coachable. It's just natural. That can still score goals as well. So it was a treat for me to be able to play alongside him and with him, because I saw the game like him. We had different traits, but we were on the same wavelength. You could feel that in training, regardless of the language. We spoke the same language, which was football.
Yeah, 100%. So we've talked about his unselfish nature on the pitch in his role, but there is, examples of it off the pitch. Salah joins and Firmino instantly hands over his number 11 shirt. Is this an example of his unselfish nature off the pitch and what he did to keep the team chemistry and morale perfect, in the dressing room? Because he'd made that number 11 his own, and he passed it down in an instant for someone who was only just joining us. And, Salah had done well at Roma, but Firmino was creating a team around him. Just tell me about his unselfish nature and how you could see it in everyday life.
Well, it helped that he got the number 9, I think. Yeah. But of course, I've played with him, I've trained with him, he's extremely unselfish, and there's no ego there, albeit you could look at him and think there is, but honestly there isn't. He's extremely laid back, and for how good he is, he's a wonderful person, selfless, and in a team you need the majority of your team to be like that, and then you let your superstars kind of shine, and Bobby is very rare because he's a superstar, but he's a selfless superstar as well. So not many players that will get spoken to as in such high regard as Bobby, and hence why I'm sure in the documentary you'll hear so many people kind of speak very highly of him.
Yeah, and I think as fans we all feel the exact same, but we didn't have that personal connection. It's great to hear that he was also exactly what we see, but off the pitch as well. Liverpool start winning major trophies, then we win the Champions League, followed by the World Club Cup, followed by the Premier League, which we hadn't won in 30 years. But there is an argument to say that Firmino was our most pivotal player, winning the World Club Cup. Obviously, he scores the winner against Monterrey in the semis. He wins the winner against Flamengo in the final. How happy was everyone for him? Because did it feel like he deserved that moment, a moment to really be the hero? Because he doesn't always get the headlines. It was more Mane and Salah. Did it feel like, he deserves that moment?
That was important for him, I think. They probably recognised that competition more than us over in Europe, and I think we played against, was it a Mexican team, and who did we play against in the final? Flamengo, which is a Brazilian team, isn't it? Yep. So, it was extra sweet, I think, for Bobby, and I remember him being fantastic in both them games. And yeah, as I said, he still scored a blooming lot of goals. I think he scored over 100 for Liverpool. So it's, I can't even sit here and say he wasn't a goal scorer, because he was as well. And that's why, it's so rare to get people that play la false nine, which means you're not always a natural goal scorer, but Bobby's got the stats to back it up as well. So if you can look back on Firmino's time, then what is your favourite Firmino moment? I think off the pitch, I think his celebrations are amazing. The song that the fans sing, I think incredible. It's probably my favourite song, I think. The Si Senor song, it's just catching, and it fits with the person he is, I think. And on the pitch, I could be here for hours telling you about some of the performances he put in, some of his goals he scored. Not even goals, but just some of his touches, and the way he kind of sees, the way he effortlessly makes the game look so simple. I remember there being a goal against Newcastle, it might have been, where Mo played in the ball and he done don't even know what he'd done, but he laid it into Mo's pathway without even looking. And he taught me an awful lot. And even now, when I'm speaking to my lad, and I'll always reference Bobby and how he takes the ball, how he receives it, how he's selfless, brings other players into play. And I'm, looking forward to see the farewell that he gets at the club, because he'll be a legend forever.
You didn't really do any of the samba type dancing with him, but I do remember one celebration off the top of my head where I think he jumps on you and you both headbutt each other and go down to the floor. It seems unbelievable to play with a player like that and obviously win everything with him. What would his legacy be like then? Obviously, how will Liverpool fans see him and his time at the club?
A legend forever. Of course, it's sad that he's leaving, but all great things do come to an end, and there's an argument to say that a cycle is coming to an end now, with obviously Mane leaving, Bobby's not going to be there anymore. I might be wrong, or that. Well, I'm not wrong. The players are starting to leave, and that's what happens. There's different generations in football and cycles, and there's an element that probably the club need to rebuild. And what is nice is that, albeit they're having a difficult season, the fans, the football club need to recognise kind of what he's done, what he's brought to the football club, and that's legacy. We can do all our talking about him, but what will happen is that in years to come, when he comes back, that's how you'll know how respected he is, because the fans won't ever forget him.
Yeah, I think as a fan, that the hard thing is you watch your team, and once they become the pinnacle of football and win it all, you kind of forget that in 5 years down the road, everyone ages and things have to come to an end. It does feel like, one by one, as players start leaving, that it feels like you've lost someone, and that seems an over exaggeration, but it really does. That's how much he meant.
Yeah, that's what happens, and then you mourn them, and then you feel sorry for yourself that you've lost these players. But it's it's life, and it's what happens in football. Everything comes to an end, and you move on. It was the same when Stevie left. The feeling around the place, there'll be nothing like than that. Stevie's in a different breath itself to anyone, but it feels different this because it mirrors the success the football club's had over the last 5-6 years, and I hope it's not the end of the success. What's difficult is that every club's rebuilding, every club's spending money, every club wants the success that Liverpool have had over the last 5 years. But listen, it's important that Bobby gets the accolades he deserves, because he was right at the heart of everything that's been won over the past 5-6 years at the club.
Yeah, and I'm sure he will get that send-off, especially at Anfield. I'm going to be very upset that day, to say the least. So if you could give me one word, just Bobby Firmino in one word, what would you say?
I'd say happy. I honestly, like you say that and I smile. You talk about Bobby from a football sense, from a people sense, like a person sense, from a visual sense. You look at him and you just see his teeth glistening. he's just always happy, and he puts a smile on people's face.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to a Liverpool legend.
Thanks for having me.
About another Liverpool legend. That's been Redmen TV, Bobby Firmino documentary.
If you enjoyed that interview with Adam Lallana, then there are a whole host more, as well as our full 3-episode docu-series, Bobby Firmino, Best in the World, over on redmenplus.com right now. Fill your boots on Bobby Firmino love, an absolutely stellar series, and full interviews with all of the contributors as well, from Liverpool legends, past and present. Yeah, redmenplus.com. Fill your boots.